everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Can you describe silver and indeed gold and all the other precious metals as an investment? Or is that the wrong word to be using? Should we be using phrases like wealth preservation tool and financial insurance policy? The word investment is the key here because it does have connotations of expectations on a return on that investment, a profit. The whole definition of the word investment is putting your money into something with the expectation of making a profit. And that's not always quite so crystal clear with things like silver and gold. That's what I want to talk about today. I think it's a fascinating topic and I'd love to know your opinions as we go throughout today's video, but it's important to remember, this is my usual disclaimer in here, that I am not a financial advisor or expert or planner. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about shiny things here on YouTube, and today's video is a collection of my own thoughts and opinions, so any financial decisions that you make having watched today's video are yours and yours alone. Now, I am talking predominantly about silver here today as we have a bunch of silver which I've made here on the table, and you'll notice as well that I'm wearing one glove on, one glove off, and that's because I recently burnt my fingers picking up a rather hot crucible, and I've got two rather nasty blisters on that on those two fingers, so I didn't want to show those here on YouTube. That's why I've got my glove on. Now, if you do want to support the channel, please feel free to click on through to my website. There's a link down in the description below where you can see a lot of these new pieces that we've got up there for sale, including some of these really cool BYB logo bars and squares. So feel free to click on through. There's a link down below. Now, the word investment, that's where we're going to start today, because the word investment does have some interesting connotations with regards to expectations. And I think that's the most important thing to start with, expectations. Now, for new stackers, and I know it's the same for myself, when you start reading about silver, the word investing in silver or investment in silver is bandied around so much. And it's just the natural word to think about. And indeed, when I was talking with Mrs. Backyard Bullion about the very first bits of silver that we would look to purchase and invest in, I believed it was just an investment. Of course, my outlook on the reasons for buying silver has changed quite considerably over time, but at the same time, it's still classed, I think, as an investment. And you can, don't get me wrong, you can invest in silver in that sense. You can buy at a certain price and then hope to sell at a certain price and make money. However, it's really interesting that a lot of people out there in this world don't view that in the same light. And the reason for that is that the majority of the time, silver is not necessarily yielding a huge, I mean, in the short term, it's a volatile metal. Don't get me wrong, it can definitely yield an investment. But for the many, many stackers out there, the reason why they purchase silver is as a financial hedge, as an insurance policy for the very long term. And indeed, a lot of preppers and stackers out there will not even be planning to sell their silver, if at all, for 30, 40, 50 years, or even down into future generations. So there's a whole host of different things there to factor in. If you are buying your silver without even a thought of how to sell it, where to sell it, or an expectation of profit when you sell it, it really can't be classed as an investment. So there you see it being more of a kind of insurance policy, or even not even an insurance policy, because if you're buying it just because you like the stuff and you want to accumulate wealth, then it's a wealth accumulation tool. I mean, there's so many different phrases that can be bandied around about it. But I think it's important to talk about here in today's video because the word the word investment leads to expectation, and that is really very important. And I see it all the time that new stackers or stackers will get into silver and they'll basically have this expectation of earning a lot of money from silver or gold. They'll, you read articles, you see things about people talking about shooting the moon or silver going to $1,000 an ounce. I've talked about that so many times on my channel. I don't really want to rehash up all those old arguments as to why I think that's just fantasy. I really cannot see silver shooting the moon in our lifetime, perhaps one day. But even if it did do that, and we've seen, in various different countries around the world, like Venezuela, I've done a video on Venezuela before, and that's had 250,000 views. And it's just an interesting one, because if you have that kind of situation where silver in your home currency shoots the moon, it's really a bit of a misnomer, because it's not actually yielded you really a tangible profit. Yes, there's a numerical profit there, but it's not actually yielded any form of actual investment return, because the buying power of the currency that you get back is so diminished by the value of the currency that you're in that it's just not even, it's just worthless. And that's Well, it's not worthless because it preserves your wealth, and that's one of the best things, but it's worthless in terms of it being an actual investment. Now, of course, there are likelihoods of currencies failing all around the world, and that could definitely happen. And don't get me wrong, having silver is a good thing. If you're worried about that, or if you just want to have a bit of a diverse portfolio, then definitely you can put some money into that. But whether it can be classed as an investment, I personally don't think that that's an accurate description of what that purchase would represent. And that's one of the big things that I focus on with my kind of bullion grade silver. If I buy a big giant bar, I've got a couple of really nice big 50-ounce bars, a couple of kilo bars, bunch of just generic silver rounds. Those are investments in the metal, which also act as a hedge against the inflation. We can have those precious metals sitting there. They can yield us a little return if we needed to in the short term, if the spot price has gone up, or we can hold on to them for a long term and keep them to protect our wealth against inflation. So there's definitely a bit of both going on there for kind of bullion grade silver. Now, where you can, in my opinion, invest in silver, and this is again a little bit of a misnomer, I suppose, because you're not technically, in my opinion anyway, investing in the silver per se, is by purchasing premium items. Now, premium items are not going to be for everybody, and if you've clicked through to my website, you'll notice that my hand-poured silver is a premium priced item. That's just because it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, money and resources to create them, and it's not an easy thing to do. But I like to think that if you are purchasing premium items, whether it be my hand-poured silver or whether it be collectible numismatics or Queen's Beast proof coins or whatever it might be, there's definitely an investment there, and it's not necessarily in the precious metals. You're investing in the brand of what you're buying. You're investing in the collectability of the particular coins or numismatics or the series or indeed the poorer. If you buy any of the hand-poured silver that's out there in this world, whether it be mine, the big names in the game, you're investing in their brand. You're investing in the fact that hopefully there'll be somebody out there at some point in the future who will pay you good money for the items that you've purchased. And that, in my opinion, is how you can invest in silver. It's much more of a speculative market. It definitely has its ups and downs. It's a much more volatile market. Of course, there are a lot more risks involved with those kind of things. For example, if you are going to go and buy my hand-poured silver, I would say this right up front. Don't go into it expecting to make money on my hand-poured silver. I know that sounds like a really strange thing to say, but I think it's actually more important for me to be open and honest about that and saying to you that, I genuinely hope that my silver one day becomes a really hot collector's item and will yield people huge returns on investments. Maybe in 10 years' time, when we're much bigger and more successful than we are today, these early pieces will be worth more money. But nobody knows, and I can't tell you that. I can't guarantee that. All I can do is provide the best service that I can, the best products that we can, and leave it to the gods of silver. That is ultimately what you're putting your faith into if you buy anything that's premium. So if you are buying things like the Queen's Beast proof coins, then you can indeed make a return on those as an investment. And I do see those much more as an investment rather than a sort of hedge against inflation. Because yes, whilst they're made of gold, whilst they're made of silver and all of that, it's got a lot of potential risk involved with it, and they're always at such a high price over spot price that it's very difficult to actually potentially get that return back quickly. So why is this important? I think it's the most important thing for new stackers to get their heads around, because there's a lot of information out there which is always bandied around about silver and gold being a fantastic investment and something that will yield you a lot of money. And I like to think that I've always been a little bit of a down-to-earth. Even at the start, when I would purchase my very first pieces of silver, I was always down to earth about the fact that it was going to be a 5 to 10 year investment. I did a lot of reading out there, and at the time when I bought, which was at the end of 2015, the silver price in pounds anyway was something like £9.50 an ounce, really, really low. And of course now we're sitting around the £13 an ounce mark, which is fantastic, you might say. Well, yes, but at the time of buying those first couple of silver coins, the majority of them were around about £12, £13 when I purchased them, because some of them were a little bit of a premium. And of course in the EU and UK we spend a little bit more on our silver because of wondrous taxes. So the whole point there was, yes, it was great to buy, but immediately you are down because the spot price is lower than where you've put your purchase price in, and people will, dealers, if you were looking to sell them, will give you spot price basically, and you perhaps won't make money. So if I took those first original, coins that I took, basically right now they would get me their money back at spot price. Of course, there are different ways to sell them to earn more money, but the point is that it doesn't actually make you a profit. Profit is an interesting word to describe there, because at the end of the day, it's a wealth preservation inherent sort of, it's got that inherent value adding to your portfolio, which I think is the most important thing that you can take away from this video, that silver is not a get rich quick scheme. Silver and gold are not a get rich quick scheme. They're a keep rich quick scheme, if that makes sense. But you don't have to be rich to buy silver and gold. Anybody can go and buy silver and gold. It's not that rare. It's not even that expensive, especially silver at the moment being very cheap compared to gold. And if you've got some of that disposable income, or if you've got some savings there and you want to diversify a portfolio, it's definitely worth factoring in. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the situation. Let's do our little summary like we do at the end of every one of these videos. Can we use the word investment to describe silver buying? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if you're investing in it as a very short-term asset and you're willing to play the markets, you're willing to see the volatility of silver, perhaps you buy at £13 an ounce one day, a week later it's $13.50, you can sell. If you can do that, then that's great for you. Fantastic. Then yes, I would say it's an investment, albeit a pretty risky one. If you're holding on to your silver for a longer period of time, I would argue there that you're not necessarily investing in silver, you're protecting your wealth in the form of silver. That is my thoughts on that. And it can apply to gold as well. We've talked and used the word silver a lot here, but I do think it applies a lot to gold out there at the moment too. And the last thing here is to say whether or not we can class premium items as an investment. You're not investing in the silver. I think that's the last thing to say. You're investing in the brand, you're investing in the product itself rather than what it's made out of. And that's something which I think is quite important to hammer home, especially about the hand-poured silver that we have here. So that's my thoughts and opinions on this subject. I hope you've enjoyed it as we've gone through it today. If you would like to comment with your thoughts and opinions on whether or not silver is an investment, whether you invest in silver or whether you wealth preserve in silver. I don't know. I mean, it's wealth preserve in silver doesn't have as nice a ring or a quicker kind of connotation to it as investing in silver does. But I do think it's important to get across that investing in silver is not necessarily the right phrase for a lot of people, and it does depend on your own situations. So let us know your own thoughts down in the comment section. I only ask that you comment respectfully of mine and other people's opinions. There are no places for trolls here on the Backyard Bullion comment section, so if you're going to be obtuse and rude, you're going to get booted out. Otherwise, I'll see you down there for a fun, thought-provoking discussion. Otherwise, last thing to say, if you enjoyed today's video, please do put a thumbs up on it down below. It really does help everything that we do here on our channel. And if you would like to support our channel, we've got, of course, an array of different silver items over on our websites. For those who haven't been, have been watching all the way through, I didn't really talk about these three items here, the Silver Forum rounds. Those are not on my website, but they will be at some point in the near future. If you're interested in pre-ordering those, there's a link as well down in the description to the Silver Forum, and you can find out more information on them there. Otherwise, that is it from us. If you want to see videos from us in the future and you're not subscribed to the channel, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications when the videos go live so that you don't miss any of them, hit the alarm bell. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you one and all for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. And as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.